as an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter what the business is, whether it's sticky tape, whether it's hotels, it doesn't matter. Or now a business I have, which is software, it doesn't matter what the business is. The basics are the same. Yes, you have to learn a little bit about this, a little bit about that, but that's enjoyment. It's fun because, you're doing the things you're passionate about, and you're doing it for a reason. Whilst initially my first thing was money for a car, now it's money, and it's achievement, and it's success, and providing a service to people they're happy to pay for.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my podcast. I'm so delighted that you're still with me, and I'm so happy to be with you. Today, I would like to introduce my special guest. Guess who Bill himself. He's an entrepreneur. He very well known around Ireland, Dublin, Galway, even Cork. So he also well known around whole world. Even Lithuania know him very well. Kenya. So person who run successfully number of companies, and he's a chairman of number of boards. So Aidan Corless, welcome.
Good morning. Thank
Hi.
you. Nice to be here this morning.
Thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome.
It's very interesting that you decide to come eventually.
Well, when you're asked often enough, and that's one of my key points here today, if somebody chases you enough and somebody asks you enough, you'll eventually get the answer you want. I
so appreciate that. Thank you. Listen, try to introduce yourself quickly so that others want to see you.
Well, that's a difficult question to introduce oneself. I think you've hit some points. I think it's better to tell the story, and that is the story as a young person leaving school and how things developed for me. I think that might be a better way to start.
Okay.
Would that work?
Absolutely. So tell then, who was your hero in your life? Start from this point.
I have to say I had one big hero who had an amazing influence in my life, all my life. And that was my dad. Now, he wasn't an entrepreneur, although he was in ways, but he wasn't an entrepreneur that went out and set up a business and made money from it. He did do things along with his job as an engineer with the ESB. He did other things to make extra income because he had to. He had 6 kids. And but I think what you're going to hear from me, there's going to be 3 letters you're going to hear from me throughout my chat. And he instilled this in us as young kids. And I'm saying 6, 7, 8, all the way through our lives. Even up to his passing at 93, nearly 93 years of age. And the letters are PMA. And I suppose if I was to give advice to anybody about anything, PMA is worldly advice that sticks with you positively all your life, and they influence it greatly. And PMA stands for positive mental attitude. So what it means is when you approach something, you have 2 choices. You have the choice of being positive, and you've been the choice of being negative. And depending on what you choose, your outcome and your result is totally dependent on the way you start. So if I start off as a young person who, like every young person, going to school, going to secondary school, approaching leaving cert, not knowing what to do, afraid of the leaving cert exam, afraid of the results, afraid of where my future is, and truthfully not knowing what I'm going to do. So those things I think are still the same today. They haven't changed, albeit when I was there, it's quite a number of years ago, and there have been major changes, positive and negative. But if I go back to my youth, and I went to school early, and I actually finished my leaving cert at 16 years of age. So
now
1 month later,
okay.
I was 17. So I was very young. Nowadays, people are typically 18 to 19. And I was the youngest. So in our year, people were a year older than me. But when I left school, I didn't like studying. I didn't do well in the leaving compared to what most people do nowadays. When I was in the studying, I was looking at car magazines, pretending to study.
That's your hobby?
Because that's my hobby, and it's still my hobby. I spend a lot of time today playing around with antique vintage cars, etc. But the truth is, I was not what you call a model student. I had no idea what I was going to do. I didn't get results that were going to allow me to do very much. Although I did apply to go into Trinity to do business, and I did get accepted because in those days you did your leaving cert and then you did a thing called another entrance exam into the university, and you could add the results, and that's how you got into university. So I did get accepted, but I knew I couldn't go because I knew I wouldn't study.
Okay.
So the second part of that is my dream from the age of 12 years of age was to get a car. So I knew if I went to university, I wasn't going to get a car. So my dream was I had to start working and make money to get a car. And, again, I'll talk about it throughout our session. If you have a passion for something, if you want something bad enough, you can make it happen. Even though it seems impossible, you can make it happen. So for me, the car was the big thing. I was used to driving. My dad taught us all how to drive at 11 and 12 years of age. So we were driving. I was driving at 16. At that stage, I was 4 years driving, and I wanted a car. And in fact, I didn't go to my Debs because my dad wouldn't give me the car. I was driving the car all the time, and I wanted the car to pick up my girlfriend and go to the Debs. And sensibly, my dad didn't give me the car because, of course, I would have been drink driving, which was allowed at that time. And he knew no way. So I said, I'm not going to my Debs and give you a car. He said, then you're not going to your Debs, but you should go. But I didn't go.
And what about the girlfriend? She probably wasn't so upset.
Well, she wasn't asked because I wasn't going.
Oh, right. So
it wasn't as if you have a long girlfriend at 16, you had a girl. But what that kind of showed about my personality was stubbornness, number one, but also determination, decision made. Can't do this, I can't do that.
I prefer determination.
Now, it was a negative decision if you think about it that way, but at least I knew I was decisive. And one of the most important things about entrepreneurship and setting up a business is you have to be able to make decisions quickly. You can't be pondering. You're hit with things instantly. You have to make decisions. So at 16, I left school. It became 17, and I decided I want to get a job. So I looked around, and actually, through a contact, I got an interview for a job. So my job was as a trainee salesman. Now, part of the agreement with my parents was that I would go to college. So I started studying marketing 2 nights a week in the College of Marketing and Design in Parnell Square. So 2 nights a week I went to classes, and then I worked during the day 5 days a week. Basically.
Right. Can I just clear one thing? It was your first job in your life that you started up, or did you work before somewhere else?
So as a youngster during the summer, we always worked. So we would work on a building site, might be shoveling, might be whatever. My dad always got us a job because he believed in work ethic. And we were taught it very young.
Main word.
I worked in bars. Before I did my leaving, I worked in my uncle's bar in Kinvara and Galway, 5 days a week. And he would be gone. I'd be in the bar by myself at 15, 16, serving pints and alcohol. And we did have then a thing called super dine dinners. So a plate of dinner, so potato, vegetable and meat coming out of the freezer and going into this cooker. And the only way you knew if it was cooked or not, because you put it in for time, but some cooked better than others, was sticking your finger in the potato.
Jesus, oh my God. Don't tell this to customers.
Was it icy or was it soft? Quite often we got people sending the food back, it was burnt, and quite often we got people saying it's not cooked enough and you put it back in. And one occasion I can remember they asked to speak to the manager. I was the only person on the premises. And I was somebody who's not here at the moment. I insist on speaking to somebody else. And I said, well, unfortunately, I'm the manager. I was only 15, 16. But anyway, we got through those. But they're the experiences of life that, stand to you. So I was working 4 months. And my dad was selling one of the cars. And I did a deal to buy the car off him. So I'm 17. And I remember the car was £2,000. And I bought the car with a loan from him. This was my pride and joy. So now I had my own car. So what happened then was I was 6 months into working in the company. The first 2 months I was on the floor doing stocks, blah, blah. I was 2 months at that. And then they brought me up to do the job I was to be there for, which was a clerical work job, dealing with customers basically and transport, as in goods were sent out, people ringing up, they didn't get them, I had to follow the transport company, etc. So I was at that for another 2 months. So that was 4 months into the job. And then the sales manager of the company left and somebody was promoted. One of the sales guys was promoted to sales manager. And then I was given an opportunity to go on the road. And that meant a company car. Now, the truth was that the company car they gave me was worse than the car I had. But I sold the car I had. I got more money than I would paid my dad, so I made a few bob on it. And I got a company car. Now I had some money, plus I had a car. And off I went. Then my job was selling. So I was covering the west of Ireland, the Midlands, the west of Ireland, selling sticky tape. I'll never forget my mother saying to me, "How can you make a living out of sticky tape?" And when I explained to her how much sticky tape we sold, how much money we were selling, she kind of understood it, but she couldn't believe how much sticky
Because you're able to make money basically
out of
on the
sticky
sticky
tape.
tapes. Yeah, okay.
So what happened then was the sales manager, the new sales manager, about a year after left the company. And then there was a position of sales manager. And I was given the job as sales manager. Now, I was only 19.
Wow.
And the people I was managing, the other salespeople, were 30s and 40s years of age.
And how they look at you? To know, sometimes people who's older.
The answer is, I would say they didn't like it, but the respect I showed them, not as if I was their boss. We were all working together. We all had a name. We had a target. And I was also going to benefit from their sales. If I could improve their sales, I got a commission on their sales as well. So it was my job to help them. And many times I went and did calls with them to make a successful outcome and get business. So it actually worked quite well. I was 3 years with the company and I got a phone call at work one day and it was from a competitor. And he was wondering if I'd come and have a chat with them. So I arranged, came and sat down. I go and meet them and they offer me a job as sales manager of their company. And I went through bits and pieces. And then I said, "What kind of a car you'll give me?" And they said, "What kind of a car are you driving?" I told them and they said, "Don't believe you're driving that car."
Why?
Because I was too young. Who would give me a car like that? So I said, "Well, do you want to come out and have a look?" So we walked outside the door and I was able to show them that this was my car. The guy was blown away. So he said, "Well, obviously we'll have to match it and give you a new one." So that was that done. And then it talked about salary. And I told him I was on double what I was. Little lie. And he said, "I don't believe you." I said, "Look, you don't believe me about the car. You don't believe me." I said, "That's fine." I said, "Nice to meet you." Because I didn't care. I really didn't care. And he said, "Hold on a second. Let's talk about it." He said, "What if we match your salary?" I said, "That's no good to me." I said, "Why would I leave matching my car and matching my salary? I'm sorry." So he said, "Let me think about it." So he came back the next day and he said, "Give me 10% more than double my salary."
Okay.
So I said, "Now we're talking." So we did a deal and I came working for the company. So that went well. I became a director of that company. And about 2.5 years into working for that company, I found that I was the one bringing all the business in. I was the one doing mostly everything, except for production, which was obviously happening by the people in the factory. And I said to myself, I should really do this myself. Why am I doing this for somebody else? He's making all the money. Yes, I was making a lot of money, by the way. I don't doubt that. But not compared to what I'd make if I was able to do it myself. So I made an appointment with the boss and I sat him down. I said, "Look, I'm thinking, this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, look, I'm doing most of the business here. Would you agree with that?" He said, "I agree with that." And I said, "I'll buy 50% of the company. We'll get a valuation and I'll buy 50% of the company and we'll become partners."
And what age you were at the time?
At that stage, I was 22.
Okay.
And
still very young.
The owner was 46. So he said to me, "Aidan, it's my company. Look at the name on the door. That'll never change," he says. So we finished the meeting. I was pleasant and finished the meeting. And I made a decision, right, I'm now going to start planning to do this myself. Now, it wasn't just going out and setting a company up and selling things. It was the whole other area that I had some experience in over the years, but not huge, and that was production. So if I wanted to do this properly, I needed printing machines to print this sticky tape. And in fact, I had decided an added product I wanted to sell was sticky labels. So I needed a printing machine to print these sticky labels. So it was quite complicated. I had to learn, where do these machines come from? What do they cost? How am I going to get the money together? Blah, blah, blah. And one morning, my boss called me into my office and he said to me, Aidan, he said, I have heard that you're thinking of setting up your own business. Now, he would have heard that from some customer because I was asking some customers, if I did, would you support me?
Okay.
So obviously someone said it back to him. And I said, well, look, the truth is, I did ask you if I could buy 50% of the company and you said no. So I am thinking it, but that's down the road. So he said, I want you to clear your desk, take everything with you and leave. I said, how do you mean leave?
For one day. Oh my God.
He said,
But he was
you're working for yourself in your own mind and I don't know what you're working at all day long. I said, but I've got a target. Am I reaching the target? Yes. Am I making money for you? Yes. Am I doing anything I shouldn't be doing? No. And he said, I want you to leave now. Now, fortunately for me, 6 months earlier, that January, I decided that instead of having a company car, which I had a lovely company car, I'd buy my own car and charge the company expenses. And the reason I was doing that was not because I wanted to go out on my own. It was because I was paying tax on having a company car. So by having my own car and charging the company for expense, I'd make money, I'd have my own car, and I don't pay tax.
That's clever.
So I did that the previous, plus the fact I'd buy the car that I wanted. So I decided I was buying myself a BMW. So I had my car and I was getting company expenses and whatever. Suddenly I'm in a state of shock, practically getting a heart attack. I'm being told, that's it, off you go. I'm not ready to set up a business. I haven't got things in place. I don't have the money yet. So that's it. When I move my personal things out of the office and I go to the car. So I went home and stress hit me. I spent the next 48 hours in bed, my mind going all over the place. Stress of next week I don't have an income. Next week I don't have a job. Next week I have nothing.
But you had your savings, right?
Oh, I had money. Yes, I had some money and I had my own house and I had a mortgage that I was paying every month. But it was just the stress of it. I had no immediate financial difficulty because I had a lot of savings. Just thing hit me. And remember, I'm 22. So things hit me. So speaking to my dad again, he said, Aidan, look, we'll support you. Don't worry. We'll blah, blah, blah. All positive. And I woke up on Monday morning. That was, I can remember, Thursday evening. And by Monday morning, it was fresh and I was ready. And I started on the phone, ringing people, ringing Italy, who were going to supply the machines to me, and finding out cost of everything. And then I went home and I sat down with my dad and I said, this is what I need to do, but I need you to give me £100,000.
So basically it's a loan, right?
Correct. I needed £100,000. And of course, he didn't have £100,000 that he could give me. So what he did, we had a summer house in Galway. So what he did, and he had no mortgage. So what he did is he gave it to my bank as security for a £100,000 loan. And the bank gave me the loan for 5 years. And they held that house, which was worth at the time about 150,000, as security. But it meant that if my loan and my business didn't succeed, my dad lost the house.
Big responsibilities, by the way, for that age.
It's massive. Who is going to give their son this kind of a loan with the risk attached, not knowing your son is going to succeed or not? And the answer is, I don't know anybody. And I believe I would do it actually for my child, but he did it. Very few people would do it. So that was done. That was done. And I had 5 years to repay it. And believe it or not.
5 years ago.
Believe it or not, in 21 months, I repaid the loan to the bank and I got my deed.
Fantastic, unbelievable story.
It is unbelievable, but I worked every minute that God gave me. From setting up the company, I got the loan of money, I bought equipment in from Italy. This is a very important part, that I got a premises to work from in Sheriff Street in Dublin 1. And at that stage down in Sheriff Street, the police walked in twos. They said the dogs went around in twos because it was a dangerous place. They said if your car was stolen in Dublin, you'd find it in Sheriff Street.
Jesus.
You didn't have to go looking for it. Just go down to Sheriff Street. And you would be lucky if it wasn't burnt out. If it wasn't.
God.
So Sheriff Street, now a thriving place, thriving inner city, IFSC, financial service, great place now. But back in 1985, it was not a good place. So I got a premises there. There was a man from Galway called Seamus McDermott. He had been a business consultant, he'd made his money, and he decided to give something back to society. And he got a building, an old dilapidated building in Sheriff Street. And he set up a thing called the Liffey Trust. And Liffey Trust's aim was to help young people get jobs, to help young people set up companies. And he put his money into restoring this building into offices and factories so that people could set up. And I heard about
Fair play to him.
And the rent that I was to pay there was half the going rent of anywhere else. Plus, he gave us advice. When you needed advice, you went to him and he gave free.
Fair play to him. Seamus McDermott is a big figure and well-known guy in Dublin as entrepreneur, and he set up his own business here He's retired.
He would now be 88.
Something like that. He is old enough man, but he's still very sharp in his mind.
Very sharp, great guy. So he set this up, and basically his plan was to help other people, to give back to society. And we'll talk about that in the end, how I do that now. It's a very important part of our lives. And the purpose, people have to think about what's the purpose of my life? It's not just go and do what you want. We all have a plan. There's a plan made for each of us.
Yeah,
that we don't know necessarily, but if we think enough and look at our lives and look at where we came from, look at our passions, look at what we're good at, what are we good at as people, and where do we want to go with our lives? What do we want to do? And we'll talk about that later. But if I go back to the story of I've set up my own business now, and I'm working every day, 7 days a week to get this working, even at the weekend, going through what was then the golden pages.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have the internet. The yellow golden pages.
I remember this book.
And starting at the top, looking at every company, where they are, taking their phone number, ringing them to see if I could sell them my packaging. So one decision I made in setting up the business was I was not going to be just a company selling sticky tape. I was not going to be a company selling 3 products. I was going to sell every possible product I could sell. And I have some stories about that, where one of my biggest clients that I got was Tato Crisps, and they were spending a lot of money with me. And I got to know they had 3 companies. They had Eurosnacks, they had Tato, and they had King Crisps. And I was dealing with each of them. And one day, the manager rings me up and he says, Aidan, I'm badly stuck for something. Could you get it for me? And I said, of course, what is it? And he said, I need 24 standing knives. Standing knives were basically knives for cutting things. And he needed them within an hour. Did I get them? Of course, I bought them. I put my profit on them and I delivered them. So from that, he learned that when he's stuck and he needs something, he can ring me and he knows he's going to get it.
And rely on you.
I sold so many things that were not part of packaging that I made money on. And these buyers understood that if they were stuck and they needed something, all they had to do was ring me. And that's how my business grew. I ended up selling thousands of products. So when I made a call to sell to a company, I could sell them whatever they wanted. I didn't have to be specific. But my investment was in machinery for printing sticky labels and printing sticky tape. I started exporting in 1990, started with the UK. So the UK were competing with us here in Ireland, and they were big enough just to drop the prices, and there'd be no profit in it for me. So I was wondering, what am I going to do competing with them? So I decided one day that I was going to take on a manager for my business, because the business now had grown quite big. I was going to take on a manager and I'd pay him a lot of money. That would give me more time to do what I was best at, which was breaking new ground and getting extra business sales. So I booked a flight Monday morning, 7:00 to London. I arrived in London, picked up my hire car, and I went to the first industrial estate. And my plan was to call to all of these companies and try and make sales. So I called to a number of companies, didn't get to see anybody. I called to the 4th company about 10:00 in the morning, and they said, yes, Peter will be with you in a moment. Peter came out and I introduced myself to him and my company. And then he says, where are you from? And I said, Dublin. Give him my business card, Dublin. And he says, get to F out of here.
Why?
He was English. He didn't want to be buying from Ireland. Why would he buy from Ireland?
Oh my God,
His
this is
attitude was,
horror.
get
Irish.
to F out of here.
English and Irish.
My God, I left that place. I went to my car rental. I put my head on the steering wheel with my hands in my head. And I said, what am I doing here? Oh my God, the negative feedback, everything. I'm after flying over. I'm not flying home until 8 o'clock tonight. What am I going to do all day long? I have two choices, I said to myself, after about talking to myself for 15 minutes. One choice is I go off and go for a walk, go for lunch, hang around, go in and look at the city, and then go back home tonight. The second, that's what I want to do. The second choice is keep going. I didn't want to keep going. I did not want to keep going.
Why?
I can't handle this. Because I said, the first three people didn't meet me. The fourth person tells me to go home.
So you were so disappointed in yourself or in the situation?
Thinking first it's the wrong thing to do. It's the wrong idea, thinking I can come over and sell here. Then the experience just threw me. At this stage, 1990, let's put it in perspective.
Yeah, glad.
1990, 28, 30. Yeah, I'm 28 years of age at this stage. But I have a lot of experience. So anyway, what did I do? Of course, 15 minutes later, I shook myself off and I went on calling door to door to door. And it was 4 o'clock anyway, and I thought I made an impression on a couple of companies who were going to consider me for the future. And I'm saying, maybe I'll just go off. I hadn't eaten all day. Maybe I'll just go off and get something to eat and head for the airport. And I said, I'm going to do 3 more calls. That's it. So the second call I did, I met this guy, and just to give you an example, on printed sticky tape, a big order in Ireland would be 1,000 rolls printed with a company name on it. So I did this call. The company, I'll never forget, it was called Excess Baggage UK. I went in, told him blah, blah, blah. And he said, look at mate, he says, I don't care where it comes from if the price is right and the quality is right. So he said, have you got a sample of what you do? So I actually had a sample from 2 companies, neighbours of his. It was their samples. Of course, I didn't have any UK samples for myself to show him. So I showed one of the samples from his neighbours.
Okay.
I said, there's a sample.
Oh my God, clever move.
He said, okay. He says, that's the same quality as we're getting here. It's down to price. And I said, how many rolls do you buy at a time? He said, 10,800 every 3 months. I nearly fell off the stool. I said, this is what I want. So I knew my business. I didn't know exactly what it was going to cost to send it from Ireland over to England. I had an idea. And I hit him with a price. And he said, no, your price is too high. I said, what price do you want? He said, no, it doesn't work like that. I said, come on, tell me what price you want, and I'll tell you if I can do it. If I can do it, good. If I can't, fine. So he told me, I'll never forget, 90 pence a roll, 10,800 rolls. He wanted 90 pence. I had quoted £1.05. And I said, okay. I took out my calculator and I pretended to be working on it. I wasn't. I was just working my head, but I was giving myself a few minutes to think. And I said, well, I'll do 95 pence. And I said, you're going to save a lot of money that way, and you're going to blah, 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 because I know you have to be paying £1. And he says, no, it's 90 pence or it's nothing. I said, 92.5. He said, no.
It's a bargain. Well done.
I said, well, look, I can't do 90 pence, unfortunately. I tell you what I'll do. I'll do 92. That's delivered, and you're going to save. I know you're paying a lot more, and I don't mind you saving the money. So I left with an order, 10,800 rolls at 92 pence sterling a roll, which was massive business. That would keep my machine going. One machine, at this stage I had 4. We were doing on average 720 a day. So that would keep my machine going for, but say 15 days,
Wow.
So it was one machine going for 15 days. So it was incredible. So that was the start of my English business. And I flew home that evening. You cannot believe the satisfaction. That's the one thing about selling, and one thing about having your own business is you set out a plan, I'm going to do this. When you succeed,
absolutely,
that encourages you to do more.
Oh, more, yeah. You got this big order. What's happened after?
So that was my first. That's when I decided on the plane home, I said, right, I'm going to penetrate the UK market. This is my first order. I'm going to go more. So what did I do? Obviously, we'll fulfill that order, and that started happening. And then I decided, rather than growing organically in the UK, I'm going to go over and find out who my competitors are over there. And then try and buy a UK company and grow internally that way. So what I did was I put an advertisement in the UK looking for a salesman in the UK. And from that, I got a number of applicants. I understood who my competitors were. They were working for I said, it has to be in the industry. I went over to London, I interviewed, and I took on a guy, and he bought him a car. And in the UK, the car wasn't the thing. Is my wife's health insurance covered? Is this, and have you got the money to support me for the rest of my life? All these were the questions. And I was, again, 28 years of age. And this guy I was employing was 50, long time with the company, told me he could do X, Y, and Z and whatever. Now, as it turns out, within 12 months, I had to get rid of him because he wasn't able to do X, Y, and Z. What I was asking him to do was about 10% of what I was capable of doing. And he wasn't able. So he worked for 12 months, and it was a 12-month trial period.
Okay.
And then I had to get rid of him. So what I did then was, having learned who my competitors were in the UK, I approached a small company and I bought them out. So now I had a production plant in the UK. I bought a premises, put equipment in there, employed people to service the UK market. So now I had a foothold in the UK, and that business was great. So I used to work in the UK, I'd fly over from Dublin. Ryanair was fantastic. I was paying £200 to Aer Lingus. Now Ryanair came in, I was getting it for £90. I fly over at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'd be home in my kitchen at 7 o'clock in the evening, work the day.
Wow. Can you imagine, guys?
Once a week, I did that. So I set up the business in the UK, and that went very well. And now I had about 60 people employed in Dublin and in London. And I said to myself one day, everything I'm doing here in the UK, production-wise, would be done easier if I had it all under one plant in Dublin. So I bought land. I built a big factory out in the M50, and I closed down my UK production, brought it back to Ireland, and I sold off the premises in London. And now I produced everything for the UK and Dublin in Dublin. But what happened then was, around the year 2003, Ireland got really expensive. For example, my rates bill on my building was £70,000 a year, just to the rates.
Okay.
So before I open up, I have to pay the local authorities £70,000 in rates. Now, yes, of course, I had big turnover. My business was going very well. I had an export market in Spain, Germany, and the UK. But production costs became very, very high. And the business I had in Germany now had 2 years, and I found that my costs had got so high that I was not making the money I needed to make in Germany. So I had a decision to make. Do I drop my German business because there's no big profits in it, put my efforts in somewhere else? Or do I go back a stage in the process and say, let's produce for Germany somewhere cheaper? So that's when I decided, for two reasons. For that reason, and the second reason is I needed more staff. Staff was extremely expensive in Ireland, hard to get. You were training them up, and they were being stolen by your competitors, basically offered more money. You had spent the money training them, and they go. So I put advertisements in Poland and in Lithuania looking for staff who were in this industry.
What year it was?
That was 2003.
That's basically when Ireland opened the border for immigrants.
The borders were open, but those countries were still, they were not European Union countries
at the time. Yes.
They were a year
correct.
later, 2004, 2003, they weren't.
But at the time, people, I remember in myself, they got the work visa and permits. Yes.
Correct. Yes.
And you have to renew this every year,
Yes,
and
correct.
then it's a condition they wind what you have to do and which one. Yeah.
So eventually, anyway, I employed 3 people from Lithuania. They came to work in Ireland, and they worked for me for 12 months in Ireland, during which time my plan was to teach them our business and then set up a production unit in Vilnius, Lithuania, the capital city. So what I did was I bought a premises in Vilnius in a factory, and I bought equipment, sent it out to Lithuania. And of the 3 people, one of them was going to be a manager. And we set up production. I sent out my Irish production manager out with them for a period to set the production up. And eventually we produced for export to Spain and Germany, everything in Vilnius, Lithuania. And that was very successful because my costs there were a third of what they would be in Ireland. And that meant that now my German business became profitable again. So now I had a factory in Ireland and a factory in Lithuania.
Well done.
So that was 2003. But by 2005, looking again, you're always looking at, you're never finished. If you're not growing your business is going backwards if you're not growing.
Correct.
What is the
Yes,
next step for me in 2005? So I understood the next steps for me was I had to invest in more modern equipment because now we were into a different era of production. And I was going to have to invest more. I was going to have to even get a bigger premises than the one that I'd built because I'd outgrown it very quickly. And then I said to myself one morning, I'd like to do something else. I think I'll do something else. I'll sell this business. I'll sell the group. So I went through that process. And by June 2005, I'd set up my business in May 1985. In June 2005, 20 years later, I sold the business and I exited within 6 months. So now I'd got a lot of money, I had time, and I'd sold the business.
And what age?
I was 45.
45.
So would that be right? No, I wasn't. I was 42.
42.
42. I set up the business at 22. So I was 20 years out, 42.
Okay.
So now I had a lot of money and I had time. But I still had, as I was selling the business, I was walking down the street in Vilnius, in the capital city of Lithuania, and I saw this old building. And I said, that would make a great hotel. Because I was staying, obviously, when I went to Lithuania all the time, I was initially staying in hotels. I did buy an apartment there for myself. But I was looking at this was a location like the Westbury Hotel in Dublin off Grafton Street. Fantastic location, an old building. It was an old corn mill and it had been empty for 50 years.
Wow.
And I said, this would make it. So while I was selling my company, I bought the building. And I started working with an architect to restore the building to a hotel. And in 2007, I opened the first Irish hotel in the Baltics in Vilnius.
Fantastic.
Hotel Tilto on Tilto Street. And that was another exciting chapter and a bit of fun. But as an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter what the business is, whether it's sticky tape, whether it's hotels, it doesn't matter. Or now a business I have, which is software, it doesn't matter what the business is. The basics are the same. Yes, you have to learn a little bit about this, a little bit about that. But that's enjoyment. It's fun because, you're doing the things you're passionate about and you're doing it for a reason. Whilst initially my first thing was money for a car, now it's money and it's achievement and it's success and providing a service to people they're happy to pay for. So to conclude, that's what I did then in 2005. I exited the business and I decided, let's try something new.
And
so since then, I've been trying lots of new things and I'm still at it, enjoying it immensely.
Fantastic. So let's put all together now, okay? So this was a long way for you to get first step in a new company where you just will sweep the floor and build this imperial called that sticky tape in Dublin and then sold out and find a new chapter, like being a hotel business. So what advice you can give to nowadays people who are thinking to be entrepreneur, who try to step out from the work and work for themselves? They're still working, but from the normal job that they work for somebody, they're working for themselves.
Just when you said what you said, I said to myself, I better say something else before I answer your question. And that is that this all sounds beautiful, it all sounds lovely, and it happens so, like hand in glove, so simply.
Absolutely.
What I want to explain is that so many troubles I had during that time, so many problems. And as you hit these problems, you wonder, am I going to survive this? As an entrepreneur, as a person, are you going to survive? And I'll give you an example. And this is amazing, really. It's the Friday the 13th. We all know of Friday the 13th being a day we need to watch ourselves. So Friday the 13th, 1993, I leave my office, my factory, which is in Guinness's at the time, not in Guinness's, in Grand Canal, beside Guinness's factory. So I have 2 big premises there. Before I built the purpose-built place, I'm there. And I leave Friday evening at 5:30, and I go home. And I'm sitting down having dinner, and it's now 8 p.m. And I get a phone call on the mobile from the local sergeant in the police station. Can you please come into your factory? It's on fire. So I get into the car and I race in to see my building in flames. Now, at that time, fortunately, I had my production also in London. So I saw the place in flames. I went in, I got the key of the van, and I took the van out of the warehouse, even though the fireman said, I can't do that. I did it. Yes, it was covered in smoke, but we were able to polish all of that off. And basically, the building was gutted. The stock was gutted, burnt. Everything was burnt. The only thing that survived was the van that I pulled out and my safe. I had one of those big old safes, which I bought secondhand, which withstands fire. And in there were the CDs belonged to our computer system, that had our customers. It had who owed us money, who we owed money to, everything backed up on a Friday evening.
Thank God something been
Thanks
saved.
be to God.
Oh, Jesus.
But believe it or not, we're thanking God. There one bigger thing happened.
What's happening?
That Friday morning, I had bought a new label machine for €700,000, pounds, whatever it was in 1993. And it was to be delivered on Wednesday. And we were told we'd have it Thursday evening. It was in the docks, ready to be delivered up to our factory. We were ready for it. Friday morning, we're told it'll be there at 11 a.m. Thanks be to God, it never arrived on Friday, because if it did, it would have been burnt. There was a delay.
Everything happened.
And on
happened
Monday morning,
purpose.
they were ringing and say, we're going to be there at 10 a.m. We were saying, don't come here. We can't take it here, because there was no building to put it into. So that was miraculous for two reasons. The first reason being, if that 700,000 label machine had been in the factory, I hadn't even thought of adding it to the insurance. So it would have gone up and it would have been burnt with no insurance.
Wow.
And I would have had the loan to pay back without the machine, because the machine was going to make the money to pay it back. It's unreal how that didn't, because it was supposed to come on Wednesday, Thursday, didn't arrive on Friday. Thanks be to God. The factory went up on fire. Now, just on that point, insurance, we were insured, but there's a thing called the average clause. And what that means is if you insure something for 100, but it's really worth 150, therefore you're 2/3 insured. So if you're insured for 100, they'll only pay you 2/3 of 100. So we were underinsured by that. So we ended up, why were we underinsured? Because I didn't sit down and revalue things as the business developed. So we got 66% of what we were insured for, despite the fact we should have been getting 150%, if you understand. So it's a lesson about insurance and the average value. You need to keep all your values insured, updated every 12 months to make sure if you buy something you like that asset, that you tell the insurance and you pay the premium. Otherwise, you're not insured. So I think I just wanted to explain all of the journey and the success that we reached was a result of a lot of stress, a lot of hard work, a lot of basic things. Would I change any of it? No. I'm just making the point. It just doesn't happen like that. But the truth is, no matter what you do, whether you do what I've done or do something else, you're going to get your trials and tribulations. You're going to get your problems. And as I said already, it's how you deal with that problem. It's not the problem. It's how you deal with it that matters.
That's true. So again, back to the advice for youngish now, not youngish, old people, doesn't matter what age you are, try to set up something. I knew statistically, if you check this internet, you see one of their question that nowadays people searching, where I can get, what the idea it could be for my business, in particular this year or in this field. So
okay.
Where they come...
Let me just talk to you about ideas. So without a question, if you want to set up a business, you need an idea. So, whatever the idea is, you have to do research and understand, is there a market for it? Who's going to pay me for it? How am I going to make money out of it? What are my costs in doing it? Where am I going to do it? How am I going? All those questions. What I'd have to say about that is this. I want to give examples. In my time as I was running my business, I remember hearing about a guy who wanted to set up a business. And when I heard about it, I said, who is going to buy that? For example, every morning I go to my tap and I put on the cold tap and I drink lovely cold water. Great. This guy was going to bottle water and he was going to charge a lot of money for it and he was going to make money, he thought. And I said, there's a business that cannot survive. The company was called Ballygown. Very successful business, made a lot of money out of selling water, something we have free in our tap. I had a friend now, I didn't know him at the time. He was born in the north of Ireland. And at 5 a.m., when he was going to school, at 5 a.m., his parents got up out of bed and made him come down and help in their bakery. They baked bread. So they had fresh, hot bread for people buying in their shop in the morning. Like it or not, he was pulled out of the bed and he learned, I have to do it, so might as well get up myself and do it rather than being pulled out of the bed. He hated it. He didn't hate the baking. He hated getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
So what did he do about it? And this is the thing about business and entrepreneurship. Are you going to do something about it? There are 3 types of people in this life. Okay. There are the people that watch things happen. They just watch. There are people then that ask what happened. And then there's the person who makes things happen. And this guy, what did he do? He made things happen. What did he do? He said, I have to find a way of not getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and still have freshly hot baked bread for our customers. And he put his head together and he came up with what we now know, Cuisine de France. They're part of a bigger group now. Partly baked bread. You'd half bake the bread, you'd freeze it, and you ship it into all the supermarkets and everywhere around the world. They put it in an oven for a short while and you have the hot smell of the lovely baked bakery in the supermarket, hot, fresh, and there it is. He came up with that idea, made 68 million euro out of it eventually, having gone through lots of problems, blah, blah, blah. And now he doesn't get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. He gets up around 10 o'clock to count his money.
Wow, that was a great idea. Well done.
No, but the point is, if you can make money out of water and you can make money out of bread, have bread and water been around for hundreds of years? Yes. Yet these guys recently made money out of it. So the idea doesn't have to be something unbelievable. If you look at your life, your daily life, what things are surrounding you, what things you experience, there's lots of things you can do with those to improve them, to make them better, to make money.
Okay. Give 5 main characteristics for the entrepreneur should have.
Well, knowing I was coming in here this morning, I made a couple of notes.
Show me notes. It's all there.
I'm going to read for them. And I said,
okay, go on. It doesn't matter.
I said to me, what are the important things?
The first 5 of this will be most important one from your point of view.
For me, I start with PMA. I've talked about it again.
One of them. Okay.
Being positive, firstly. The second one to me is so important. Determination. That you make a decision to do something and you do it. You don't, it's a bit like what I just said. You don't watch. Okay. You don't ask. You actually make it happen. You do it. Determination would be the second.
Positive.
The third to me would be so important. And I experience it so many times and I'm fantastic at making decisions. If you give me 4 options, you want an answer now, I'll give you an answer now. Most people walk away, they have to think about it, they come back to decision, to be decisive. Is so important as an entrepreneur. To be highly motivated. In other words, you like work. You're motivated by what you're going to gain by doing it. What am I going to gain by selling sticky tape? I'm going to make money. What am I going to gain by doing what I do? I'm going to get money. And, with the money you're going to get, you have a plan. What am I going to do with the money? Well, I actually want to go on holidays. I want to buy a car. I want to treat somebody. Maybe I'll treat my parents who've been so good to me. Something like that. The next one, which is so important, is to be a risk taker. You have to be prepared to take risks. And people sometimes mix up what risks are. Somebody said to me, would you be a gambler? I'm not a gambler. I've put a few euro on this or that or the other. I've never made any money. I don't believe you can make money gambling, so I'm not a gambler. But I'm a risk taker. I weigh up what are the odds of success and failure. And if the odds are higher of success and I believe in it, I'll take a risk. So entrepreneurs have to be risk takers. Nobody, most people, when I set up my business, did I have the money to go and do what I needed to do without taking risks? No, I took big risks. My dad took risks giving me the money. So you have to be a risk taker, but you have to weigh it all up and say, is this going to be successful? If you're not 100% confident it's going to be successful, then you can't do it. You believe in yourself. You spoke about believing in yourself without a doubt. If you don't believe in yourself, you have no chance at all. You have to be competitive. You have to want to fight for what you believe is right in your business, what you need to do. You have to be a leader, because eventually you're going to employ...
For everybody.
Pardon?
For yourself or for everybody?
No, you're fighting for your business. Whatever your business needs, you have to fight for it.
For yourself.
Fight for your customers. Retain your customers. You need to be a leader, because you're going to take on staff, hopefully, and you need to show them, lead them. Confident, I talk to you need to be persistent. When you're told no, that doesn't mean no. You have to keep going back looking for your customer. Because, what used to really amaze me is I call into a client and I'd say, I want to talk to you about packaging. And they'd say to me, we already have a supplier. Now, what I wanted to say to them, of course you have a supplier. What's that got to do with anything? But of course, say, I understand that, but is there any chance you give me a couple of minutes to show you why you should change supplier to me? So, you have to... I got so many no's eventually to get a yes. I remember one contract I was chasing in the UK when I had my UK company, and they told me no over 2 years. And one day they said to me, when I contacted them, they said, okay, we'll give you 20 minutes Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. I'm ringing from Dublin. They want me in London Tuesday morning. I was there. And I did a presentation that resulted in the following Friday. I was back in London doing a presentation to a bigger number of people. This was a major PLC in the UK. I wanted to win a contract, from which I won. And it took a lot of work. And eventually, when the directors agreed, I had to meet their team of sales managers, about 100 people in a hotel in a ballroom, and present to them to get them on board to go with us. But what's my point? Persistence pays. You don't walk in and somebody says yes and it's all over and a big deal. So persistence is very important. To be adaptable, to be able to change. If the water is flowing this way, you can't be going that way. Even though you want to, you have to go with it. To be optimistic. Plan positively and optimistically. If I do that, I do this and do that. And with that, I'm doing this and the other. To be optimistic is very important. To have the passion, to also have discipline, because, when you're running your own business, not to get carried away. So, for example, you have a good year and you've made X amount of money. Do you go out and blow it on a bigger car, a bigger house? Do you blow it on whatever? And the answer, you can't do that. The company that you are running needs the money to expand. So if you take away the money and blow it, you don't have it to expand and grow. So to be disciplined, to be open-minded, to be persuasive, and all the time having the right attitude. Again, the positive attitude towards it. There's some of the things that I spoke about. But one of the things that is so important, why would you like to set up your own business? Why would you like to be an entrepreneur? And I think this message isn't out there. It's the best job you can have. If you're capable, you've got freedom. You can choose what happens, when it happens, where it happens. You've got financial security because you're in control of your security and your future. You make the decisions. You decide what time you want to work, where you want to work. For example, I do most of my work on a laptop. I can work from Portugal. I can work from Ireland. I can work from Galway. I can work from France. I was 2 weeks ago in Canada. I was able to work from Canada. Now we're all carrying a phone where we can deal with most things on the phone, by email or by phone. So the world is very different now to where it was then. But again, as an entrepreneur, this is what you can do. You can make dreams a reality. But again, it's down to you. And obviously, the one thing that goes with working for yourself and entrepreneurship, if you're good, you're going to make money. You'll be wealthy, if that's what your choice is. And I made a choice a number of years ago that I wasn't going to spend my life working, making more money, that I was going to use the money, yes, to enjoy more, also to help people that need help. And we'll talk about that afterwards in terms of the third world. But if you work for a company, you've got a salary and you get a salary and that's it. Yes, you might get an increase or you might do something different, you'll get more. But if you work for yourself, your limit of income is down to you. The sky's the limit. Depends on you, your performance, and how hard you want to work. I also believe that your brain believes everything you say and that your words ignite or extinguish your actions. So again, I'm back to PMA. If you think positive and you think about plans and you make them happen, they will happen. But you can extinguish your thoughts negatively, you can extinguish your positive thoughts, and you end up with nothing. So our brain listens to what we say. So that's why I keep saying, think positively. If you allow your brain to think negative, that's where you end up, unfortunately. And I've seen it so many times. Yes, I'm an over-positive person, but I believe that each person listening to this can be also positive. They can teach themselves. Would you start off in the morning? You said it all correctly. Start off with a bit of exercise. People that are successful get up early. People that are successful eat a breakfast to take nourishment for their body after exercise. People that are successful spend time working. Doesn't happen automatically. Nobody comes to you and says, here's a lot of money. Here's a way you can make a lot of money without working. Hard work is the single ingredient, the most important. I share this with you. You've heard of Bitcoin.
Yes.
Currency Bitcoin.
Nowadays.
It's the biggest bank in the world with no cash.
That's true.
You've heard of Uber. It's the biggest taxi company in the world with no cars. You've heard of Facebook. It's the world's largest social network with no content. You've heard of Alibaba. It's the biggest retailer in the world with no inventory. Airbnb, the biggest accommodation provider in the world, and they've no property. So we're in a world now that is very different to the world I started in from a business point of view. So, for example, I give talks about entrepreneurship to a number of schools and universities. And one of the things I was saying recently was that, you know, the idea of your business can be, it's so vast. You can have any idea. And one of the students in one of them was telling me what they're doing is they're going online. They're buying stuff from China. They're getting China to deliver it directly to the client. So they're not seeing any product, but they have this company set up online where they sell to you. It's delivered directly from China and they make their money. He gets paid, he pays China, and China delivers directly. So it's an online business where he never sees a product. He just sits at his computer and plays all day long. And this is a young person in college. So the opportunities are huge. It's a question of you focusing on this. This is something for young people listening. What are your strengths and what are your talents? If you don't know what they are, it starts actually back with your parents. Ask your parents. They know what your talents are. They know what you're good at. Your school reports say what you're good at in terms of academics. But as I told you, academically, I wasn't good because I didn't want to be there studying. But I had other talents that I didn't know. Did I leave school saying I'm setting up a business? No. Did I leave school saying, well, I want to do something in business? That's the only thing I thought I'd be good at. What were my talents? Well, we learned earlier that I was determined, happy to work with something I believed in, not happy to study. I didn't want to it. I believed in studying, but I didn't want to do it. So you have to want to do something to be successful. And when you want to do something, you generally are successful because you put the time and the effort and all that it takes. I want to share something else with you, which to me is a great saying. And it's, people say to me, what is success? What is success? So to me, success is that you have a goal you want to achieve and you achieve it. Now that is in any walk of life. It's not just in business. So you have a goal to want to achieve and you achieve it positively. That's success. And success is not all about business and making money. Success is actually the big factor of life called happiness. And what is happiness? And I have a quote here on happiness to me that says it all. It's happiness is what you think, it's what you say, and it's what you do, all in harmony, all working together. And nothing will make you happy, in my opinion, until you choose to be happy. Again, positive mental attitude, you have to choose to be happy. And happiness can only come from you. Whoever the person is makes life happy for themselves. Yes, your friends, yes, your partner. But if you haven't chosen that road, you're not going to achieve it because it starts here. Everybody blames everybody else. And that's the world we live in today. Huge negativity, everyone giving out about everybody else. The bus was late, the train was late, the car broke down. That's life. That happens to us. What's the point in giving out? I got a ticket recently, a parking ticket, and for a few moments I felt bad about the person that gave it to me, the rule. I was there for a few minutes. My excuse was good. But I said, when I parked there, did I know it was legal? Yes. I got a ticket. Is that right? Yes. Aidan, get over it. It's your fault. Accept responsibility. And once you do that, you move on, you pay the fine, and that's it. That's life.
Let's talk about your new companies that you set up. Not set up, you basically bought.
Okay, so 10 months ago. So currently, I have a property business in the UK and Ireland. I have this new company that I've taken over 8-9 months ago. So it's a company called workcompass.com. And basically, this company has been around for a number of years. It developed incredible software using artificial intelligence in performance management. So what exactly is that? Well, performance management is something every company wants. So they want to make sure their employees are performing at best. And most managers that get jobs in companies get jobs because they were good at something else. And I spoke to you a short time ago about how I was a good salesman and suddenly I was made sales manager. Was I given training on how to be a salesman? Was I sent on a course? No, nothing. Zero.
Personality.
So certainly I'm a sales manager suddenly, and I have really no experience as a sales manager. That's the way things still work today. People are promoted for one reason or another. A vacancy comes and you're shoved into it. Yes, some of the big American conglomerates would send you on a course, but normal companies employing the average company don't. You're given a job and kind of that's it. And one of the things that managers are poor at is coaching their staff. They're good at saying to their staff member, you made a mess of that. You're doing it wrong. Do it the way I told you. That's it. And you come up for the next review and it's the same thing. And when it comes to salary reviews, annual reviews, the employee hates it and a manager equally hates it. And that's a serious problem. So what our company has developed is a software using artificial intelligence, which will allow you set up a profile on your employee, between the employee and the manager, on a one page. And you have all the details of the employee. And as the employee is going through its normal working day and week, and you're inquiring from the employee why, for example, he hasn't reached his target or why he hasn't done 7 of the 10 things he was to do. And rather than giving out to him, what this software allows is you as manager to put into the AI the issues that the employee has. For example, let's just take an example. They're not doing the number of calls they should be doing. AI reads what you write. And we've got millions of data points set up in this artificial intelligence, which will give you feedback as to how you deal with that. And it'll suggest to you what you need to do and what you need to say as a manager to coach the employee into doing what the employee should be doing. Now, the employee sees this constructively because the employee can use the AI also to get help with how they talk to the manager about the issues they see. For example, they might have an issue with their manager in terms of not giving the correct direction, whatever, and they go in, and when they type in what they're saying, AI picks it up and gives them back basically an answer, which they can change, they can add to, they can subtract it. So our artificial intelligence allows the manager to coach the staff. It allows the staff to talk to the manager in the best fashion. So both of them then can win and targets can be met. Quite simple, but it's unique. It's the only performance management in the world using artificial intelligence at the moment. I'm sure other companies are trying it, but we developed this a number of years ago. The company hit financial difficulty and I went in and invested, and now I run the company, and we're 82% of our business in the States. I brought it back to Europe. We're selling in Europe, we're selling in Ireland, and we have major plans to develop this. So it's very different from the business I started. I had to learn a lot of new things, but the basics are the same. Running any business, the basics are the same.
Right. So just quick points about this company. What, from your point of view, is only advantage? Do you have any disadvantage to use artificial intelligence?
Of course, I see artificial intelligence like the internet in that it is very helpful, it is positive, there are wonderful things. But again, we see in social media what's happened with violence across the world. And it is pushed on by people abusing social media, using it for negative and for violence. Artificial intelligence can be the same. I mean, it can be used in a bad way. And I'm sure we haven't seen it yet. It can happen. But like everything, there are people that control social media, there are people that control things, and they should be using that only in a positive way.
Right. So if thinking about the company will be suited for which, your company software that you're selling will be suited for which company, big or small ones?
So we're specializing in companies that employ more than 50 people, because for us to provide it to smaller than that, it would be too expensive for them. So
Okay.
from 50 people up, it's inexpensive. I mean, like what? So in a year per employee, our cost on average is about €100. So €100 to a company for one employee to get them properly coached is nothing.
Okay. I would just say, because nowadays everybody's thinking, oh my gosh, is everything electrical, everything is roboting, and people forget about the human. Would you say if you're using this software in the company, people will forget about being just a human? Because sometimes
that's an excellent point. No is the answer to your question. In fact, one of the things that our software does is it helps promote the integrity and confidence of the manager and the employee, because now they're talking in a way they should speak to each other as opposed to what happens in normal life. That's one. Two is mental health. Part of our software helps people with mental health, with time out. One of the things that we do as a company is we have our standard holidays, and let's take whatever it is, I can't remember. Let's say it's 3.5 weeks a year or whatever. We give an extra number of days a year called mental health days, so that you can take time out, an extra day, an extra few days a year, for your own mental health. You know, it's not good for anybody to be stuck in front of a computer all day long. We recognize that, and we encourage people to do things. And we spoke earlier on about what you do in the morning when you get up and going for a run, going physical exercise. And that is the most important thing for your mental health as well as your physical. And I have to say, one of the things that I'm so delighted about for young people today is they spend a lot of time in the gym. They spend a lot of time going physically into a gym, and that is so wonderful for their mental health. It's positive in every way, and it's incredible. We didn't have it in our time. Yes, a few people, but not people now. Young people now put a huge amount of time and effort into it. I think it's amazing.
I would like to say something about you that people probably don't know. So Aidan, he's not only an entrepreneur who is looking after companies, people who are working for him, looking after amount of boards that he's chairman, as I told before, but also he's put his time for free to help other ones. He's advised people how to run their businesses. He advised people how to make decisions one another. Depends. It's related to business or even in personal life. Everybody feeling free to contact him directly, and he will find time for everybody who need help and support. But also, Aidan, when he sold his company, I knew it's a lovely story behind. He'll tell you in a while. But Aidan, he's a person, spent his own money and spent his own time helping people who live in countries like Kenya, who didn't have any opportunities sometimes. And he helped them to have these opportunities. He built the schools. He helped people, young kids, to get skills and ability to live better life. Support not only for themselves, most of them support their family after. Aidan, tell about this.
Yeah,
project.
It's an interesting one. I suppose it goes back to when I just sold the business in 2005, and I'm at church on a Sunday with my daughter, my eldest daughter. And this priest, he is a missionary priest from Dalkey, Dublin. He came to speak because he was back from the missions and he was appealing for help. And he was looking for two things. He was looking for some help financially. They wanted to build a school, and he was looking for someone that would also help with advice. And here I was at the church listening to him. And while I'm listening, my daughter elbows me on the side and says, "Dad, you could help." Now, this was a time I just sold a business. I'd got money and I have time. And I'm listening. So at the end of the Mass, I met with the priest, invited him up for coffee the next day. He came up, we sat down, and I asked him, "What do you need?" He said, "We really want to buy this land to build the school, because the school we have at the moment have the kids who are needy in the sense of some of them are blind, some of them are deaf. They're at school in the same class as the ordinary kids, and we have difficulties. And the school that they're in was built in the 50s and it's dilapidated. There's been no investment. We need to buy this land and build a new school." So I said to him that day, "Okay, I'll buy the land." I said, "And I'll come out and I'll put a plan together with you to try and build a school, etc." Now, 10 days later, I found myself in Kenya. And it was the experience of my life. It took the stomach out of me, because for the first time in my life, I witnessed poverty. We don't know what poverty is like. I remember back in the 80s seeing a picture on the Evening Herald, and it was a picture of a woman who was giving out that she was only getting X amount of money from the government, and she had 3 children. And what hit me about that picture, still hits me today, is she was sitting down discussing this with a reporter, and the picture showed her sitting at a table in a house smoking a cigarette. Now, cigarettes were expensive. Now they were expensive then. She was still able to smoke, spend money on cigarettes. I'm talking about what I witnessed in Kenya was people living in straw huts. No electricity, no water, no toilets, no clothes, no shoes, no jobs, no income, no nothing. And when I went out and witnessed that, now we hear about it, and the odd time we'd see it on TV, but when you witness it and you meet the people, it just took the stomach out of me. And I said, I have to do more. Now that I'm here, I have to do more. So I made a commitment after that trip that for the rest of my life, I was going to help these people. So what happened then was I decided to come back and reach out to friends of mine, other successful business people, to help raise money for the school. And within, on top of the money I put in, we raised €600,000 and we built this school. And that school is now full of 500 kids every day of the week. I go out there once a year. I go to the school, I meet the people, and it's a joy. And the thing about giving back, as I did there, as Seamus McDermott did in the Liffey Trust, the thing about giving back is it is much better. I get more satisfaction from that than buying a new Ferrari or going on a cruise in the Bahamas or the material things that we're all hooked up on. You know, giving back and seeing the results of your money, where you see a kid coming from this straw hut into a boarding school to get an education, to get a future. And I have, talking about success again, I've been successful in seeing poor kids go to university, become a teacher, become the principal of the school. And this young girl that I supported back in 2005, who at that time would have been, 12 years of age or whatever, she did all of that. I paid for her education to university, her accommodation. She got her degree. She became a principal of school. And she is now a nun with the Loreto Order in Nairobi. I was with her last January when I went out, last February when I went out. Fantastic lady who is there doing real things in the midst of the poor, helping the poor, teaching the poor. I mean, money could not buy the satisfaction I've got from that. So I continue doing that. And now we've just completed another school in another district where I got involved with Blackrock College in building this school. Again, has 550 kids going to secondary school. We also built a technical school. And that technical school teaches the kids that don't get to secondary school a trade. And in that vicinity, when we were building the schools, all of the builders and the carpenters and the plumbers, they all came from the city of Nairobi because there's none locally. But now we have a technical school teaching plumbing, teaching carpentry, teaching mechanics, car mechanics, teaching everything. So now from this, we will be able to, the future of that vicinity will be dealt with by the people that have learned those trades. They have jobs. Prior to this, there were no local jobs. Now there are local jobs. And these people will earn money to feed families. And it's all about food, water. And we talked about water and bread and the entrepreneurs. These people would have to travel an hour and a half to get the water in the morning, an hour and a half again in the evening, over and back to get water.
Just for water.
Simple things. So we really are far removed from that in the society we're living in Ireland. And we don't know what poverty is. And we can give out about this, that, and the other. If we could only focus on stopping giving out, stopping. And I do a bit of it myself. I'm no saint, by the way. I'm just saying that we do spend too much time. And one of the things I give out a lot about is weather. And Ireland's weather, it's raining, it's the summer. So bloody hot. It's never been any different. So why am I still giving out? Maybe it's just inbuilt. I don't know. But I get through it very quickly, and then I see the sun coming out, or I believe the sun, or I go to where the sun is for a holiday. That's life.
So how many kids are you supporting at the moment?
Well, when you say I'm
By
supporting,
yourself?
no, personally.
Personally, I'm talking personally.
I have about 5 kids that I'm putting through school, personally.
So you're paying fee every, just explain to our
no,
followers.
It's an annual fee for these kids.
How much for the person, for example?
Well, for the kids in the technical school, it's €500 per annum. For the kids in the secondary school, it's 700, and for university, it's 2,500.
Okay. So if anybody would like to help, just directly to Aidan Corless and he'll direct you what you need to do.
Yeah, we have a charity, registered charity. All the money goes through. I don't handle money. And you get tax receipt, you get a charity receipt, all that sort of thing. That's done. And it's a wonderful thing to do because, you know, we all help our children. That's without question. But to be able to help somebody that has no chance of a future, get them an education. It's all about an education. These kids won't get an education unless somebody here or somebody in a wealthier country can give it to them.
Okay, you talk about the technical schools. What skills they will get after one? And for how long could they have to be there? For a year, for 2?
It depends on particular trade.
Okay,
so for some of them, electricians take, I think, 3 years.
So you have electrician there, then what else?
Mechanic, car mechanic, carpentry, general building, maintenance, fixing, any skill. They're teaching them all.
After this technical school, the child, after 2-3 years, will able just get some simple job to live, to pay for the life.
They'll either take a job working for a company or they'll do it themselves, set up themselves. And there's huge demand there. And they can earn very good money.
Guys.
And actually, here's an interesting one. I was giving a talk to these kids in the technical school in February when I was there. How many? There were 60 kids learning to be a plumber. Now, when I say kids, I'm talking about, just say 16, 17. How many of those were male to be a plumber? How many were male and how many were female?
I don't know, whatever, 50-50.
Have you ever had a female plumber in your house?
Myself?
No, you're not a plumber. Have you ever had a female plumber?
I'm able to fix some of things.
Have you ever had a female plumber?
No, of course not.
So the answer is, as long as I live, I've never seen a female plumber. But believe it or not, there were 60 people learning the trade of plumbing. 45 were women.
Wow.
15. And there's a reason for that. And this is very important when you talk about terms of Kenya. Men are lazy. Women are working so hard.
Because they have so many kids.
Because they have kids and they have to provide for them. And the men are lazy. So it was mind-boggling for me.
It's a mentality as well.
Fantastic though. Absolutely fantastic.
Okay, guys, today we had a lovely guest who we can see not only the BlackRock guy as a star from BlackRock, but also a human being who just gets his own path built by himself. Yes, he gets support, but he did do everything by himself. He had good and bad time. He also the person who are looking after, who helping people not just to be successful, but help them to live their life, help to learn something, get skills. Like in Kenya, he built the school. Nobody push him. He just have this heart. This person has this heart. to look after other ones, to support, help, and provide. Stay with us, and Aidan Corless, we have more stories to tell.
So I would like to thank you for the time today, and it's good to impart this information, but I want to leave you with one little poem.
Go ahead.
And the reason I leave you with this, I think it's one that I picked up and I've written it down here some time ago, and I think it's great, really great. So every day is the best day. He is rich who owns the day. No one owns the day if they allow it to be invaded with worry and anxiety. Do your best every day and be done with it. Some mistakes and disappointments, no doubt. Learn from them. Forget them. Tomorrow is a new day. Begin it well with a smile because it's yours.
Fantastic. Well done. He's a poet.
No, it's not my words, not my words, but I think it's real true. And, we all get caught up in so many things in life, and life is difficult. Life is not easy. But as I say, if you start off positive, life becomes a lot easier. If you start off negative, unfortunately, that's the way you'll end up.
Aidan, thank you very much for coming. It was absolutely fantastic and really very helpful and useful for other ones who probably will follow your steps. They can't maybe repeat what you have done, but they can build their own path.
They will do better. They will do better.
Definitely.
The opportunities
because they have
are huge.
They have people like you in their life who can support them and advise.
So thank you again. I enjoyed the chat, and happy again if you want to talk about something. But I think the real message to people listening is you can do it if you want to do it. If you decide to do something and you make that decision, you can achieve whatever you want, but it's up to you. Nobody else will do it for you. It's like happiness. It's in your control. Thank you.
Start from a small step to get a big picture. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Goodbye.